I'm Kylie.
I'm Peyton.
And this is Spires of Change. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, May 8th. Yes, May 8th, 2025. And we have a very exciting show for you today. This is actually our first edition of an episode with a guest. So we are very excited to introduce Madi and learn more about her and just, her practice. And she holds a lot of many different roles, which she will tell you about. But yeah, we're really excited to have her, and I will send it over to her so she can tell us a little bit more about her.
Yeah, Maddie's a ASMR artist on YouTube. She's a visual artist, a Reiki master, and a tarot reader. So welcome, Maddie.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be a part of it.
Thanks for, coming in, teaching us and showing us your skills. And we're just really, me and Kylie love astrology and everything. So we're really excited for this episode.
Yeah, I'm super excited to chat about a lot of exciting topics and ideas and, even referencing some of our earlier conversations. We've covered so many awesome things tonight, and very excited to share stuff about divination, spirituality, current events, magic, philosophy, all sorts of fun stuff.
Yay!
Perfect. Yes, we're excited to get into it. But before we jump into that piece of the show, we did, of course, want to start out with some current events. And so if you were not aware, the conclave, which is the group of cardinals that vote for the new pope, because as we know, Pope Francis passed away on April 21st. So they came to the conclusion, and they did find or elect a new pope, and his name is Pope Leo XIV. His birth name is Robert Francis Prevost, and he is from Chicago. So he's actually the first American pope. So history has been made today. Very exciting. And he was a confidant of the former Pope, and Pope Francis he was definitely one of the more progressive popes. So hopefully this new Pope will, follow in his footsteps. And I'm just glad it wasn't somebody who was very, on the other side of things, because as we discussed earlier, I don't think, we don't need more of that energy in the world. But
no.
We just wanted to let you all know of that development, but I'm going to throw it back to Peyton for some more current events.
Yeah, so as we know, the Trump administration sucks. So some more of things that they've been doing is they have defunded food banks across the United States. So that's great. More people are going to be hungry. Then he also is seeking to end funding to NPR and PBS, which is important because it's a public. They're both, one's radio, one's TV, but both are free to the public. And even like PBS has a lot of educational kids shows, and like that's where Sesame Street is and all those shows. So yeah, it's really shitty for kids across America when they're already, we're headed towards a recession. We're probably in a recession, but don't have access to things like that. So.
Yes, very, just the war in education is very, again, as we've discussed in the past, anytime an administration is trying to go against education, that's a very bad sign. So, many children learn a lot of things from Sesame Street. And there's another show that I used to watch that I cannot remember the name of it. Cyber something. I cannot remember the name of it. But like,
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, they had the motherboard character.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, like all of those shows, if you don't have cable.
Arthur? Is that?
Arthur was on PBS too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The lion one.
Yeah, Read Between the Lines.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Also wholesome. There's just so many
They're
wholesome.
really good shows for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Educational, teaches them social emotional, information as well, which is also very important. So, but the good thing is, although, federal funding is being cut, we can always donate to both of those resources. So just because that funding is getting taken away doesn't mean that, the whole thing is getting taken away. It's just in our hands to financially support them. So,
Well, one of many things being defunded, very important aspects of our community are being stripped away from us. Been so sad to hear, especially about the parks, public parks, forestry, and having to even close some aspects of different parks in order to compensate for the cut that's just happened.
yeah, it's definitely a tax on all fronts, unfortunately. But it's up to us to find ways to fight back. So whether it is, donating to your, your local food bank, or donating to the two entities we were just talking about, or finding ways to volunteer, finding ways to support your local parks, donating to, the national parks if that's something that is available. So although this news is, not news that we want to hear, there are ways that we can fight against this. So, but yeah, on another note, we do want to get into our time with Madi and just learn about, she wears many different hats, as was discussed earlier. So yeah, we would just love to learn more about how you got into tarot and just the different tenets of spirituality.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I do quite a few different things. I love to blend the creative with the spiritual. So, doing filmmaking, recording my energy healings and tarot readings on YouTube as an ASMRtist. So, kind of blending performance art, hypnosis, Reiki distance healing. There's so many aspects that go into ASMR and the art of creating ASMR and finding ways of sharing spiritual experiences, helping others have heightened spiritual experiences and providing comfort and relaxation. It's like trying to find alternative ways of healing. It's definitely been an interesting ride, but I'd say with tarot, reading in person is my preferred. I do love reading for people online and also on my channel reading for the zodiac sign. So I do kind of general readings for each sign where they can be in some ways on point. It's just so different reading for someone in person. They get to choose some of their cards. When I use my traditional 3 decks, it's just a totally different experience. And it's been incredible to watch people go from being curious or being completely skeptical, really not having any interest in it, to all of a sudden wondering, how is this possible? It's almost like a belief going to a knowing of something higher, something that can be helpful. And it's just so mysterious and fascinating. And I love to create space, containers in art, in performance art, actual visual art, and of course, in giving advice to others, having this empty void and this empty space for something higher to come through, and for it to have higher intention, or it to be guided, channeling, so to speak. So really all of my art forms embrace the idea of channeling, allowing my conscious self to take the back seat and allow for something higher.
That's really, I mean, it's just so amazing that you have all of these different mediums that you blend together. And I really want to know what got you interested in this facet of life. Was there a specific event that kind of spurred this, or you've just always been, like, were you raised in more of a spiritual household or more of like a religious household, or how did you find all of these things?
Yeah. I think I was blessed because I grew up in a household that was not only very embracing of exploring different spiritual beliefs, different religions. My family took us to many different Vietnamese Buddhist temples, Hindu temples, Catholic churches, non-denominational. There's been this openness to all. So almost being taught in like a universalist type of perspective where it's like you can find spiritual connection through any path, or all paths at once, which I very much embrace. But also, my grandma lived with us since I was a kid. She would travel with us. My family was constantly traveling my whole life, and she was an energy healer and massage therapist. So I actually learned energy healing and openness about heightened psychic experiences or paranormal experiences, being able to handle intuition, being able to be open to God in different ways or our own spiritual energy, spiritual path in unique ways. So I'm very grateful to have learned about energy really all of my life and having that be accessible.
Mm. Yeah, I think that definitely makes a big difference because, I mean, you mentioned that you traveled a lot and that you were exposed to so many different, yeah, paths of spirituality. And I feel like that makes a big difference because personally, I was raised Catholic. I stopped going to church when I was 16 just because it didn't really resonate with me. So, um, I think it's really important to have that openness because just because something is different doesn't mean that it's wrong. And I think specifically, since Christianity is really the only religion that I have the most experience with, of course, that's the lens that I'm coming from. But I know that a lot of Christians, if you even say the word tarot or astrology or anything,
Yes,
it's like, oh my
yes.
God, it's demonic. Like, don't talk to me about that. I can't even think about it. And it's just like, okay, like on one hand, I understand like that's your faith, if it says in the Bible and which it does, can't have false idols or whatever the case may be. But it just always bothers me how people just demonize what things that they don't know or they're unfamiliar with or,
Absolutely.
so.
I think that there is reason to fear the knife. There's a reason to be intimidated by the power of an incredible tool. And if someone who is not doing it from a sincere, uh, well disciplined place, they can do harm. If you get a tarot reader who fearmongers and can plant seeds of destruction to assume that you truly know what is happening and say, oh, yeah, all these things are going to happen. And I know this is true. I know I see all. That is very, very wrong. And I think it's really how you use the tool. And as a tarot reader, especially if you're going to be reading for other people, there is incredible responsibility. And even if I have some impression about something serious in that way, I can never assume that that is the truth. And if it would be unwise for me to say that without providing solution, without providing context, without having the right delivery, there is a lot of weight in what you say, and very important for other people to not give away their power to the tarot. You can always rise above. You can always create your miracle life. If you want to do something different, change your whole life tomorrow, your cards are going to be totally different. They're very changeable. It's like a portrait of a stream in motion. And if you could consider your timeline as a tree branch, there are many different veins, there are many different aspects of your destiny or purpose that you can decide to be on. We do have free will, and I deeply believe in the power of free will. And the tarot deeply believes in the power of free will. You look at the Magician card, you have all elements to create something from nothing, to create your life, to control your life, to have the ultimate power of the self. And to forget that, to give that away in search of answers when you're unsure can be, you have to do it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, discernment is key.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever religion or way of thinking that you subscribe to, it is important to have discernment. That's a really good point.
Yeah, thank you. I think that that's the key really with tarot, and I understand the fear, but I'm not going to stop myself from utilizing something that I feel has really been so helpful. You know, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of belief like, oh, you know, if it's usually religious fear and around it. But when I actually read for people, many will cry or just be so moved. Like it's such a beautiful connection situation. They really feel like it could be of help, you know, kind of even just like reaffirming where they're at, something that they're going through. And that reassurance of what they already know can just really make the difference and also opens to the mystery of life. And it's like a reality check in a lot of ways that there is this higher path for ourselves and higher purpose in what we're doing. And honestly, it's brought so much good that you really have to look at the actual outcome of these tools and of these things. Just because the church or a group of people said that, you know, you shouldn't use it, that doesn't mean it's necessarily true, especially from religious organizations that seek to disempower you, making you go through them to reach God rather than connecting in with yourself, using tools to connect in with God on your own.
Oh, that's a really good point because like we were talking about in the kitchen earlier, just how when we talk about religion and kind of where it started, and we obviously live in a patriarchal society, and religion is a huge tool for the patriarchal society. And so when we see, people back then converted from paganism to the Roman Catholic Church, was basically to make money because it's like, oh, well, you can't talk to God by yourself or spirit or the universe, whatever you believe in. You have to go through us to do that. And also you have to pay us a fee. So it made it inaccessible to a lot of people, which is unfortunate. But yeah, like I think, for instance, tarot, or lately, I feel like I've been really, getting more into my spirituality and like being by myself and not maybe judging my thoughts of what's popping up and what's going on. But yeah, it makes me sad thinking that it's like all these people don't realize like, oh, it's just a tool to help you get more in tune with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I just, different things work for different people. And I just, like, that's what I have to keep reminding myself is, what works for me might not work for Peyton, what works for Peyton might not work for Maddie, and, all of the above. But as long as, we're doing what works for us and we're not, disrespecting other people's beliefs, I think that's what matters the most. But I definitely do agree that there are multiple ways of connecting, and one shouldn't be, higher than the other or demonized or,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. So
There's multiple paths to the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And some walk the normal path, the one that has been tread upon. And there can be multiple paths that are well worn. And then many, their purpose is to create their own that may be more efficient, that may be more adaptable to the changes of the side of the mountain. And it's like, it's not evil to chart your own path. And I think the fear is like, well, how do you know that that's really God that you're connecting in with? And it's like, if you need someone else to tell you what God is, what the experience of connecting with God is, then you don't know. You are confused if you've had a heightened experience or something that really, like, we know deep in ourselves what that is. And I think when we get overcome with this fear of like, well, what is it and what is it not, and getting confused, someone tell me what God is, what is right, what is wrong. The whole purpose, and, Jesus even said, you can only reach God like through me, capital M, me, like through the self, through your own experience is how you connect him with God. And I think that, Sam is not in view, but he is recording it right now. His podcast, we really went into extensive talk on that topic. So I love the kind of connection with that. I think that's the main message of modern religion. I think many people are realizing this is actually steering me away. A lot of organizations are power-based, and they actually steer us away from having true, heightened, mystical, deep transformational experiences and embracing the deepest parts of the self. And so many people have been left behind and locked doors. And I don't think that that's right. That's not real God.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of false prophets out there. For sure. For sure.
Well, and then it just like when you look at things, and even through like a cult mentality, or like we were talking about Scientology before, and I think it's a very human experience to like know that there's more out there, and like what's more out there, what is bigger than us, but then to, maybe prey upon that for your own personal gain, whether that's to just bring a bunch of people in, whether that's to get their money or their energy or whatever the case may be. Yeah, it's like preying on people's like fears of the unknown.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really the basis is this a fear-based thing. And you really see that with like a lot of gurus. There's a lot of weird stuff around gurus. And what is the difference truly between a spiritual teacher versus someone who is a false prophet? And I think really it's about, if you're going to be a spiritual teacher or leader of any kind, you have to teach other people to find God in themselves. If you try to tell them that you own the way or that you have the way, that's what's false. It's really about saying, no, let me teach you to carve the way inside of you to do it. And that's how people get preyed upon, by going to someone and being like, you do this for me. And that's not the case. A teacher should be someone who says, here, I have the tools for you to do this yourself, for you to cultivate that connection in you. And how can I best support you in doing that? And I think that makes the difference. And there should be many teachers. Like I do see online, especially, there's a lot of like the new age stuff and a lot of opinions, many different opinions. There's many different practices and rituals to try and improve the self. But I don't understand the hatred of like, there should be many teachers. There should be many people trying to seek something higher and to heal, but to lift people too high, you should never do that. Human beings are human beings. And I definitely don't really like this like over guru type of thing, to where you treat another human being or anything as God. But at the same time, we are all God. So to be able to see God in others, but it's like you should be able to see God in all.
Mm-hmm.
If you can see God in one, you should be seeing God in all. And that's the real point.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with that. Like, I just feel like how my brain works, it's like I can really put myself in other people's shoes, and it's not a second thought for me. So when I see something horrible going on, I'm like, well, like, how would I feel about that? Like we were talking about Gaza and Palestine and just what's going on there. And it's, I think a lot of people, it makes them uncomfortable and they don't want to think about it. But it's like, what if that was you in that scenario? How would you want people to respond? How would you want people to help? And it's just like, a lot of people aren't doing that because they're not putting themselves in the other person's shoes of like, yeah, like you said, you are God, I'm God, everyone's God. Like, we're all connected. How you treat you is how you treat me. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it is. For me, it's just hypocritical when people portray that they are, they participate in this specific belief system, which as far as I know, all of the major religions, preach to treat others, how you'd want to be treated, and to not, be hateful and things like that. So it's just really interesting to me when people say that, oh, I'm such a staunch, insert religion here, but they have so much hatred within themselves. It's very contradictory. So yeah, I think just like you said, with having empathy and being able to place yourself in other people's shoes, I think a lot of the issues that we have today would not be, but unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in currently. But maybe, we were talking earlier about we have to, kind of hit rock bottom in order, or when you hit rock bottom, is all there is to do is ascend. And so in this current day and age, looks like that is what's happening. So I think there's definitely a lot of people are being awakened, who were not before. So
Yeah.
We'll see.
A lot of tower moments.
Yeah. A lot of sudden changes, but it's for good. That's kind of the thing with the tower, that, a lot of people always fear it. Oh, I don't want to deal with the tower, but it's what's intended. It's for your best good, these changes. What was there was not serving you. It was not stable. It wasn't steady. So I think we had kind of mentioned this earlier before we started recording, to where, this is really the time. This is the turning into a new age, especially with technology, especially with changes in AI. And it really is a sacred time in humanity. And I think that it's one of the most impactful times of human history, and to be a part of it, to watch the turning, to be a part of this older world, and moving into the new one, to where it's pretty much bionic. We're merging in almost every way with technology. And I think it's going to be a time of true liberation. Like, we are going to be liberated with the information that we're going to get. And it's always a bit challenging in the beginning.
Yeah, it's always darkest before dawn. So, whenever there have been so many eras in the human timeline, and right before those eras, I'm sure the people that were living were also scared and like, oh my gosh, what is what is life going to look like, in 10, 20, 30, 100 years. But yeah, just like Maddie said, this is a very important time, and this is a time that people will be, looking back on and being like, wow, life was so different before this time period, and now it's completely different. So although it is, stepping into the unknown is very uncomfortable and scary, and whatever the case may be, you can't grow without being uncomfortable. And so that's really what I've learned over the past couple of years, is that that's the main message. And honestly, a lot of the things that I've been, scared about, once it passes, it's like, why was I even scared?
It's the unknown, the fear of the unknown. We have no idea what's going to happen. So that's the overwhelm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think instead of, I can only speak for myself in terms of how I think, but when I look at something unknown, it's like, oh my gosh, it's scary. Like, it's going to be the worst case scenario, but I'm trying to change my mindset into being like, why would it be the worst case scenario? Like, you've been, doing a lot of work, and, you've been walking the right path. So why does it have to be the worst case scenario? It's just different.
It
Different
could
doesn't
be
mean
the
bad.
best case scenario. It could
Literally.
be better than we ever could have imagined. Even just it's only been really like a year and a half that there's been public growth with AI, like public access and discussion and use, and already so many discoveries. It's just going to be incredible. I think that our minds are going to be blown over and over and over and over again. And that's the one thing we have to embrace change. We have to be okay with reality and what we know about reality changing in big ways constantly. And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay that we're learning and that it changes.
Especially because change is the only constant.
Yeah.
So,
So
you
it's
know,
like you got to roll with the punches.
It's true.
It's not going to do anything for you because there's always going to be something to change. So you might as well get used to it.
You do see a lot of people really holding tight. I think you definitely see it with the Trump administration. They're just trying to bring back so many
very shitty,
so many violent, terrible, fear-based old world. It's very much like old world beliefs, old world patterns. It's like the ultimate resistance to that, to progress. But that's normal, right? There's always a counter revolution. And if it moves quick, if it happens quick, there's also going to be just as much of a swing in the opposite direction. And just kind of seeing that that's a part of the whole process of intense, fast growth is that it's also unstable and makes people very, very afraid.
Yeah. No, and that's very true. And I think we kind of talked about it in the kitchen of just how at this point, like with it being in the old world views, like the other people that are also sticking to the old world views that are kind of like, these lost souls that get really, they love to eat the propaganda. They love to eat the old story because it's something they know. It's something they think they can connect with. And in reality, it's like we talk about all the time, white supremacy harms literally everyone involved. The patriarchy harms literally everyone involved. These power structures are not helpful, but to the very top, like the oppressor, basically. And so I just wish people, more of these, for instance, MAGA supporters, would understand that they're being fed propaganda and they're basically getting their fears like taken advantage of, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, they're feeding into the brainwashing for sure.
And I think some of them are aware. I think some of them know that it's not, what they're supporting is not right.
I know.
But it's just, this is what I've been told. This is what my mother's been told. This is what my mother's mother, generations. And so it's hard to accept that your whole schema of the way that you've looked at life is wrong. And so I think they're just clinging to it, but it's just, we've moved on, things are, that's not what's happening anymore. Yeah. So that's why all of this stuff is happening, because they're like, I need to do as much as I can before the inevitable happens. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like protecting the schema. It's like protecting this false identity, something that, really makes you safe, that is what you believe is truth. Your belief system provides comfort. I think too, this is what I've noticed as a huge theme. A lot of people, even if they don't necessarily align with their values of what is happening, there is this excitement over watching the burning and seeing the chaos, and to know that there's just extreme chaos, a huge chaos magician just storming and wreaking havoc there. I think there's many different motivations for this current administration, just what is happening politically, socially, really in the world. It's becoming so fragile, and I think that it needs to happen. If something's going to break, the only way that it could do that is by having the far right be 100% about extreme change. So I guess if that's the silver lining of this happening, how do we come into acceptance of what this is and kind of fearing the consequences, the violence to so many people, so many terrible political policies changing, social policies changing, defunding of very important populations, very important, social benefits. But if I guess that was the only way that true destruction of the current West could happen, like, is this why? Is this why this is happening? I definitely asked. I had this kind of like wrestle with God. I'm like, why would this happen? When you got elected, why this? Why would we go down this route? And that's the only sense that I could make of it. But
yeah, I follow this Vedic astrologer, and she talks about because she talks about how in Vedic astrology there's 108 star signs, and you have multiple birth charts throughout your life. And she talks about the US and how where it's at astrologically, like we're in a period of like karma, and we're basically like reaping what we sowed. And like we talked about earlier with my therapist just talked about when you have a country or an entity or whatever built on cruelty, raping, pillaging, killing, you can't really change the structure from within, because that was the heart and soul of it. Like people came here and just massacred, and it was a genocide here, Native Americans, and seeing what happened there. And then obviously we know like chattel slavery and all this stuff that happened here as well. So when you have a society built on the backs of the cruelty of humans, it's like we can't really tweak it to make it better. Like you said, it's almost
right,
like they had to be their own destruction before we can build back up.
Yeah, it is in line with really what has been going back to like that. This is the last struggle of like the old world, based off of power imbalance, based off of, violence, on destruction, pillaging, absolute like torture. I mean, what terrible ways of caring for the world, caring for ourselves. And I think that we have the resources, the tools, the knowledge and experience to rise above that. But there are some who don't want to give that up and feel like that's kind of this last stand. And I'm hoping that it's not as, I think it's already been very destructive and serious for many, but we're only a few months in. So I'm really hoping that, we can protect ourselves in the upcoming few years, especially.
Yes, that will be very imperative. I part of me is like, who's gonna come save us? But who would come save us? I wouldn't come save us.
Yeah, true.
Like,
honestly,
all the things the U.S. empire has done. No, So, I've been watching this documentary on Netflix about the Vietnam War, and just that in and of itself and we've done that to so many different countries. So it's like, of course nobody's coming to save us. We're all we got.
Yeah,
and
we're the bad guys.
Yeah, and
we have been for so long. Like this is not anything truly new. I see it as the fall. Like I do see it as the fall of the American empire.
Yeah. And it was inevitable, just like you said, you can't be doing stuff like that and then think shit is going to be peaches and cream the whole time. Like, no, something's going to come. Mm-hmm. So,
but it's not like the people are going away. It's not like the communities are going away. They continue on. I'm curious to see what is, especially in 10, 15, 20 years, what we're going to grow into and what it's going to become after this period of like dismantling and destroying everything. It's going to be so unstable. I think that things are going to absolutely implode, whether that's going to be our straight economy, just the actual government becoming non-functioning, and just this absolute shit show. I don't know if I can say that.
Oh yeah, you can.
Cool.
No censoring here.
Yeah.
But in that destruction, in that rubble, we're able to build something that's more efficient. How can we make sure that it's going to be better for us? I wish that I didn't feel this way, but I do feel the American apathy of feeling traditional forms of protest or ways of change and asserting our autonomy as U.S. citizens with the government. Like, actually don't think that we have nearly as much power as a lot of people assume or believe. I think we kind of mentioned where it's like with a lack of a real healthcare, very expensive healthcare bills, the cost of getting arrested, things like that. Many other countries, they either may not, they have more of a support, they have more of resources in order to either clap back or really stand up, protest with their government. But there's a lot of concern over the black bagging of students, just simply protesting Palestine, discussion of even deporting U.S. citizens and already stepping the line of what is, absolutely illegal things about deporting people who should be here, green cards, or people who did become U.S. citizens. So I think that the situation is much more serious, and we're going to have to find other ways of really securing a new society. It's less about fighting this one and more about letting it destroy and implode in itself. And we already have something totally different, totally wonderful, already built and kind of protected from this, whether that's in community or economy, something. Like, I don't know that it's about fighting the old.
Yeah. I honestly can kind of see that. Like, I feel like with all the terrible shit going on, it's made me realize how much we have more formed into a community. Like, I even think about our little group right now. It's just like, because we started this when Trump got elected. And so, or not, well, we were talking about it when he got elected, but then when he got inaugurated was when we first started. But I don't think we would have had as much fuel to our fire if Kamala would have won, honestly. Like, I feel like we would have been like, okay, cool. Like, we have someone normal here, whatever. But now it's like, no, what's going on is scary. We sat back. Like, there's a lot of talk in the Democratic Party of they didn't do enough. And, now we're here and we realize this whole structure just fucking sucked. And it's like, now we have to like figure out a different way to go about it. And so I think this has really forced a lot of people to get more involved with their community. I've seen so many more people at protests, more talking about things, community aid, so many people, even just on like TikTok, for instance, that are making videos for families in Gaza. So I'm seeing a lot more human connection. As shitty as everything else is, it seems like maybe at least there's that is human connection. But yeah, it is scary, and it's good to lean on our community and our loved one and our family and our friends. And I think before all this happened, we were getting to be, as the society, it's a westernized society mindset, but very individualistic. And so I'm wondering if that's going to make us all kind of revert back more into a community setting.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that this, out of anything, is going to be what could mobilize just general people. I guess you could even consider like mobilizing the left, not even to get truly political, because I think that the average person, especially if you're younger, is beyond left. Like, it's not, speaking of like Democrats, Republicans, there's no representatives that truly reflect, I think, a lot of younger generations, younger people, or just the newer beliefs about society, perspectives, what the world is growing into. So I think you're right. We're going to be developing better communities, more community support, becoming less reliant on the old. And when everything just kind of destructs or self-implodes, we'll have nets to be able to protect us, and that will also rebuild something much better, especially with automation. Like, I think that we're going to see a lot of challenges with jobs. There
Yeah,
could
we
be a
already are,
super
unfortunately.
high,
Mhm.
we could have like, think like 40% unemployment if we make huge moves towards automation. And then what happens at some point, there's going to have to be universal like income, like a baseline income, if no one really needs to work. At some point, if AI and technology really grows, we don't have to work. So something is going to radically have change about how our society is set up in a fundamental level soon, like within the next 100 years. Like, it's going to have to shift. People can't starve, but if there's no one making money or needing to actually work, and if there's surplus in energy, or there's surplus in like, in money, it's going to have to come back to people. I don't know. I'm really interested to see what money is going to turn into, what it will become, what it means.
Yeah.
Because that seems kind of unstable too, is this idea of currency.
Yeah.
Especially with a lot of these like tech tech oligarchs trying to make their own currency.
Yeah,
What is it? Yeah,
crypto.
cryptocurrency. Yeah. What is that going to look like? Yeah. So I agree that just the whole system of working. I mean, people are talking about, going to 4-day work weeks. And there's this guy I follow on TikTok, and he quit his job and he's sailing from Oregon to Hawaii. And he sold like everything. He sold his house, all of his stuff. He sold his house to buy a sailboat, and he just wants to sail for the rest of his life. And so it just makes me think, like, what would I do? What would, if I, had the gall to, quit my job and just cash in whatever money I have in my 401k and, go do what I want to do. Like, what would I be doing? I damn sure wouldn't be spending 8 hours a day, on a computer, talking to people. But yeah, I agree that there's gonna be a big shift regarding that, because people are just tired. Like, people don't want to have to. First of all, even if it was just, a lot of people are not able to just survive on one income. So there's that. And then so many people have to do, gig work or just whatever the case may be to make a living. And so I think that's just not sustainable. And then with the other elements that you were talking about with, currency essentially becoming obsolete or just changing, or
Like, it's not tangible anymore. Like cryptocurrency, I'm like, okay, well, what if it just like all the banks crashed or like computers crashed? Like, you wouldn't have anything to like, it's not tangible. It's like imaginary almost to me.
yeah.
It is still challenging to like turn into cash too. It's not totally like, an ATM money bank. You can just
like
go and
pull it
withdraw,
out.
pull it out. It's
Yeah.
not, there are lots of loopholes. So, or things to jump through, there's different challenges to jump through in order to truly like cash it out.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think there may be a turn away from cash. I don't think cash is ever going to go away. That's necessary, but you can definitely see this movement away from cash, which is also concerning.
Yeah.
At all money being traceable.
Yeah. Iffy for sure.
There are actually Bitcoin ATMs.
There's Bitcoin
Oh.
ATMs.
I saw one at the smoke shop a couple of months ago.
Is
Oh my
there a
God.
are there only certain types of coin that you could take out though?
I have not gotten that far just yet, but for right now, the one that I see most advertised on it is Bitcoin.
Okay, so it's like a Bitcoin ATM.
It's like,
Oh,
pull out my Bitcoin
wow.
to buy some weed.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Oh my God. That's
Oh.
cool. See, that's neat. I think that's a cool development. And I do think cryptocurrency is the future in a lot of ways. But I don't know. It's a total unknown. Honestly, every day is like, what's gonna happen? It's like Jerry
Clusterfuck.
Springer show.
Yeah.
Like every day it's just this crazed, totally concerning, disturbing, fascinating, confusing. Like, what is gonna happen?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess we're all watching the Tiger King.
Yeah.
We're all watching the Tiger King destroy our concepts of society and just creating total Nazi chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard on
That's
the
a great way
Nazi
to
part.
describe
Hard on the Nazi part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nazi administration.
It's step by step. I mean, we're their concentration camps.
It's
It's
like the
very sad.
parallels are not even parallel anymore. It's
Yeah,
like a stamp
exactly.
at this point. It's a
Yeah, it's like not a jump. This isn't like a long stretch. Like
we're
they're
here.
doing the salute on national camera.
Yeah.
Like on
Yeah. Behind the presidential seal.
Yeah.
And people were still excusing
I
it.
know people were still denying it. I just thought that was absolutely like people are not in reality. How can you look
Yeah.
at that and excuse that or say that that's not what it was?
Yeah.
It was very obvious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
people are
intent
definitely
behind
becoming emboldened for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I think too, you see this collective denial, collective illusion, just how much our beliefs really control what we see and what we believe. And we can really throw a whole bunch of illusion and shadow on ourselves. Like, you know, with the third eye delusions and illusions, we can definitely jade ourselves, haze ourselves due to what we want to believe, what makes us feel safe. And what's sad is that I think there are people that are so deep in it that they truly believe what they're saying. They believe the delusion in such a deep way that it's their truth. And that's very sad for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that cognitive dissonance of, you know, like I see a lot where like people are like, oh, I'm Christian, I believe in all this stuff, but then like they're a huge MAGA like supporter. It's like, okay, those are huge contradictions. But again, when you're going through the veil of Christianity as a power structure and not like what it was intended on being, like
Yeah.
it makes sense. But yeah, it's just a lot of cognitive dissonance going on. And it's very scary
Yeah.
that people can, what's the word, like normalize it, normalize what they're feeling.
I think that's always been an issue when you look at like the Middle Ages, really just any time in human history, people, their reality could be so shifted even to what they see. But we had actually talked in the kitchen, a really great point of our conversation where with like MAGA and Christianity, how Trump's policies are distinctly anti-Christ. Like they're distinctly anti-Christian and not in a way of like, oh, you know, this guy is evil, blah, 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 because he's a Republican. Like it's not even that. If you look step by step, point by point of what it means to follow Christ, what Jesus preached, Trump and his administration, the whole, like what they're trying to accomplish is the exact opposite. Like the exact opposite. And for you to think that you're a Christian and to look at that and not see is just the ultimate delusion. And that scares me. Like that level of delusion is incredibly concerning. And like we had mentioned before, there's just a lot of lost people to where they can't understand their beliefs do not match up with reality. And in a lot of ways, every person has that about them, but this is to such a serious degree that it, on the outside, it looks like extreme, like mental illness. And then they try and switch it up. Like that guy, that was he a governor who wanted to claim some mental health syndrome by not supporting Trump, like people who were going against Trump. It was like I gotta look at this up.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Do you know this Trump syndrome? People who are against Trump. I think it was like a Minnesota governor or something.
Okay, we're fact checking that.
We're fact checking this because this is a very bizarre thing that has happened. But I don't know. I can't remember exactly what it's called.
It is very bizarre. I remember somebody had said that they lived in like a small town, and a big population of the majority of the town was Christian. And they were saying how a lot of church is really the only like community that they have in the town. So they might not even necessarily like believe in what the church is saying, but that's their only way to connect with others. So they just go with it. So I think that's an important thing to know as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I have it up here. It's called Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, is a pejorative term used to describe negative reactions to U.S. President Donald Trump that are perceived to be irrational and have little regard for Trump's actual policy positions. It's mainly been used by Trump supporters to discredit criticism of him as a way of reframing the discussion by suggesting that his opponents are incapable of accurately perceiving the world, which is shocking because I feel like that is exactly what is happening.
Yeah, it's giving projection.
This is just Wikipedia.
That's crazy. Until it's in the DSM-5, it will not be recognized.
Of course,
Thank
but
you.
I mean,
But yeah, that is
already
like
so
the
many
ultimate
illegal things.
projection of like thinking like, oh, you guys are doing A, B, and C. And it's like, no, let's go stand in front of a mirror. Let's look within, see what we're doing, because that's not matching up at all. Like that's, wow. It's like, where's your critical thinking skills? Like, I just don't understand when people think this man can do no wrong. Like, I don't feel like that about a single person ever. Like, just holding someone to that high standard, especially when they're not shitty, is so crazy to me. Like, I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, the dick riding is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they gotta have... there's got to be some chafing. There's got to be some, like, I don't know. That's just too much. Like, that's... And then, again, for so many of those people to be Christians, they're treating him like an idol, which, again, is against...
Christianity.
I mean,
So
this
it's just
whole
like,
thing,
okay.
there's nothing Christian about this guy. It's the exact opposite of Jesus's teachings, even like with the immigrants, loving thy neighbor, like the whole even story of Jesus's birth is just shocking to me that people can believe. It's really about worshiping the church and having identity due to this social group that doesn't actually align with the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah. It's really, I think, turned into, like Kylie said, talking about how some people go and don't necessarily believe in it, but want that community. And how many places do we see that where these, for instance, in Hollywood, these big mega churches or celebrities starting their own churches, it's just another way to create a position of power and a power structure to then benefit off of the what's the world of human beings, like taking advantage of them and stealing their resources and their power and whatever, and stealing from people basically, and creating those networks, I would say, as well too, with people in positions of power to then further where they want to be. So again, it's always a power structure.
It's always something.
It's always something.
But yeah, moving away from that.
I know.
Moving away
Honestly,
from that.
the political conversation right now is just like such a hot topic. It could go on and on and on.
For sure. Hey guys, thank you for listening to the first episode of our 2-part special.
Yes, tune in next week and we have part 2 coming out. We can't wait for you guys to hear it.
This is Kylie.
This is Peyton.
And
And this has been Fires of Change.